See, our issue is that we come up with some plots and some schemes and some plans. Anybody in here ever had a plan? Amen. We make a plan. And then, after we come up with the plan, then we start working the plan. Then when the plan seems like it's getting kind of hard, we ask God, bless the plan. That's wrong. That's the wrong way to do that. See, you ask God for a plan. You seek God's face. You listen for God's voice. You walk in God's instructions, and guess what? Your plan is already blessed. It was blessed before you started working it. It was blessed before you knew what it was. It was blessed before He shared it with you. Why? Because it's God's plan. And whatever He does is blessed, is right, is good, and it's going to prosper. It's going to grow. It's going to increase. So when you walk in what God ordained for you, it's already blessed. Joseph didn't put himself in that situation. He was placed in that situation. But when you're walking with God and you're obedient to Him and you're submitted to Him, it doesn't matter where you're at. God can give you favor anywhere you go. Anything that you do, God can give you favor. See, some people quit where they're at because they don't like where they are. But it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're there and you're serving God and you're serving like you're serving God, in everything that you do, God's going to give you favor. Some people get caught up just where they're at. They don't want to be there. It don't seem like it's where they're supposed to be. But guess what? If you're there and you do what God tells you to do and you walk the way you're supposed to walk, God will bless you right there. He give you favor right there. Favor where nobody else can get favor. So he had favor. God gave him favor. So he was put in charge. And then when you look down, we're not going to go through the whole story, but most of us know that after that, Potiphar's wife came on to Joseph and wanted to seduce him. She wanted Joseph to want her, but he didn't want her. He might have wanted her, but he wanted God more. Amen? That's a lesson all by itself. There's some stuff that people want, but if you want God more, that's where the blessing comes from. There's a lot of stuff that people want, but if you follow your flesh, you're going to fall on your face. But if you follow God, you're going to get some favor. Amen? And so it lets us know that he refused her. And he said in verse 8, but he refused and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house. And he hath committed all that he had to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I. Neither hath he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this wickedness and sin against who? Against God. He didn't say, how can I do this wickedness against your husband, against Potiphar, against my master? He said, how can I do this against God? God was his priority. He was a servant. He was in a place that he shouldn't have been in. He was in a foreign land. He was in a foreign place. He had been his father's favorite back home with his brothers, with his family, with his mother. But now he's in a foreign place as a servant. But he's still yet putting God first. And because he put God first, God gave him favor. Now he has favor there. We know later on in the story that the wife accuses him wrongfully and says that he tried to seduce her. So where did he end up? He ends up in prison. And you say, well, that ain't favor. If he got favor, how did he end up in prison? Well, let's look down just a little bit further in chapter 39. And verse 20 says, and Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him what? Favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to what? To prosper. How do you prosper in prison? If God gives you favor, that's what you do. You say, well, what if all that happened, and he got sold into slavery, and now he's in prison? Is that favor? Everywhere he went, he had favor. So you got to learn to be content where you're at and do what God told you to do, and he can elevate you where you're at better than he could if you stayed where you came from. Did y'all miss that? The place we want to be ain't necessarily where we should be. You could be in a place that looks good and everybody else thinks is good, but it could be the wrong place for you. So you won't prosper there. You can't benefit there. You won't get God's favor there. Why? Because that ain't where you're supposed to be. Amen. Some people want a title, a position, they want some money, they want a big house, they want to move over here, they want to do this, they want to do that, and they're chasing after things, but they're not chasing after God. So when they get the stuff, they don't have no favor, they lose what they got, they ain't happy where they at, they don't get what God has for them, they don't walk in the purpose that God purposed for them. Why? Because they ain't where they're supposed to be. They're looking for the place and the things and the people instead of looking for God who can give them favor in the ditch on the corner down the street. Somebody could have a great job, a grand job with a whole lot of money, but somebody else could be picking up sticks out the street. Guess what? If the one picking up the sticks in the street is walking with God, he's going to have favor before the one that had the big job. Amen. You got to be where God allows you to be, and you got to be faithful wherever he puts you. When you're faithful where God puts you, God gives you favor. He daily loads you up with benefits. You get stuff that you don't deserve, and you get it loaded on you. It's poured out on you. It's poured over you. You learn to be content wherever you're at. We don't see Joseph in here complaining and murmuring. We don't hear him in here asking, why did this happen to me? Instead, he's saying, I'm not going to do this wickedness against God. He still yet put God first. He knows where his favor comes from. He knows where his food comes from. He knows where his blessings come from. He knows he could have been dead when they threw him in that pit. Amen. But God saved his life. See, some of us get so hung up on the things that happened to us. And where was God when this happened? Where was God when he got thrown in the pit? God was right there. That's why he ain't still in the pit. That's why he didn't die in the pit. Amen. But because he was walking with God, because he acknowledged God, he went to the foreign land. He went to Egypt. He was a servant. He went to prison. And when he was in prison, he was forgotten about. But when he was remembered, he was promoted. And the position that he had, he would have never had if he would have stayed home with daddy. He would have still been there with daddy. Brothers still hating on him. Still trying to fit in with the brothers, and the brothers don't like him. Still going through the same stuff with the same people. But sometimes God got to move you to give you the favor. Sometimes God has to move you away from some people, away from some places, away from some things. Sometimes God got to split up some stuff. Amen. But when he does, if you walk with him and you trust him, God will give you favor. Amen? Amen. The brothers couldn't figure out why Joseph was the favorite. Why did Joseph get the coat? Why did Joseph's father like him the most? Well, I don't know. But favor ain't fair. So he had it, and because he had it, he was put out, he was put down, and he was forgotten about. And because of the favor, he was promoted and he was put up in a position that could nobody take him out of. That's what happens with favor. You know why people miss their favor? Because they don't want to experience the pit, Potiphar, or the prison, and they don't want to be forgotten about. See, if you don't want to go through, you don't get what God has for you. Amen. Amen. You got to go through something in order to get the position and the promotion in the palace. Amen. Amen. It don't come free. It's something that you got to go through. Why? Because God prepares you for the favor that he has for you. There's a preparation for everything. You don't just go from down here to up here. You don't go from over there to over here. There's some stuff you got to go through so when you get to where he's leading you to, you're ready, you're prepared, and you're able to maintain whatever it is that he's given you to do. Amen? Amen. Amen. So you got to be able to go through the pit. You got to go through the prison. You got to be able to be forgotten about. You got to learn how to serve. You got to learn how when temptation comes that you can say no to temptation and yes to God. Amen. 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 Let's look. While we're in Genesis, let's look at Genesis chapter 17. Genesis chapter 17. Amen. I'm going to start at verse 15. Are you there? Chapter 17 of Genesis, and I'm beginning at verse 15, and it reads, And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarah your wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? And Abraham said unto God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a